Today's webinar is all about reports. Remember, all the data that you collect about your students and tutors can be reported on in AccuTrack and AccuSQL. And I'll show you about the various methods of how we do that. Okay, so I'll start by opening AccuTrack. This one's AccuSQL. Same difference. The reporting features are exactly the same. And I'll log in as an administrator. Now I'm going to go to my main reports menu here. Okay, and I'm just going to pick a report. Let's do visits by activity. That's a popular one. And now I'm going to show the report, and that'll open in the report viewer that's built into the program. Okay, so here's the report. And we can go page by page. This one happens to be 2 pages. Okay, but then we have some features up here at the top. If I want to save this report as a PDF, I can click right here and save it wherever I want. Okay, so I can pick the folder right here by clicking the little dots and do save. So now I'm saving that as a PDF on my desktop. And I didn't mean to do that, but I can change the view here. That's 50%. I can make it bigger if I want, whatever. Okay, the next option here, I can send it directly to the printer if I want to, and it's actually opened my PDF document here in my viewer. Go ahead and close that. Okay, but I can print it right here. That'll go right to my default printer. The next one, I can email the report as a PDF, which is a nice feature. So not only is it going to attach it as a PDF here, then I can enter who I want to send it to via email, and it'll be an email attachment. Okay, over here I can search the report right here. So when I click that, I get a little find box down in the bottom left, and if I want to look for a particular name, I can just start typing it, and it'll show me in yellow any occurrence I have of that. Now, if I have more than one, I can click Find Next, and it would take me to the next occurrence of that. It just so happens I only have one. But it's a nice way to go find the information you want. Okay. Now, here on page 2, I have a couple. So, excuse me, I do have more than one. Okay. Okay, so again, all of this is in the report viewer. So I do that just by clicking Show Report. And then whatever I want to do from there, I can do through the top icons here. Okay? Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you here is the pin feature for reports. Now, this is for the overall reports screen here. And what I mean by that is I can set a particular date that will always appear every time I access the reports. Okay, and I do that by picking my period filter. So what I'm doing by default is showing my visits by activity this semester. But let's say I always want to make it this week. Okay, I can do that by finding this week and then clicking the little pen icon right here. Okay, so that'll change to being pinned, and that means that my report period would always be this week. So when I close reports and go back in tomorrow, it will always have the filter set to this week or whatever I've pinned that to be. Okay? So that's how the pin works. Now, you can do pins on a per report basis here as well, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, now over here on the right, I have a whole lot more report filters. Okay? Now, report filters just allow me to filter the information. So I can do visits by activity. Well, by default, it's for all students, but I could say, well, I only want it for particular students, and I can pick and choose the ones I want here in the list. Okay, if I don't want to do that, well, I could do it by a particular activity, and what I'm doing is clicking the checkbox and then setting my filter. So here's my various activities, so I could do it for a particular set. Okay, now, by the way, if I click the first one and I hold the Shift key, and then click down, I can pick a whole set of various activities. I can hold the Control key and click every other one, or whichever I want. Okay, so that's how you can pick and choose multiple values there. Okay, and I can do student groups. So you can create a student group from a report through an import, or you can build your own. So there's lots of ways to make student groups. But if I set my filter here, I could say, well, I only want to run visits by activity this week for my at-risk students in this case. Or I could say my at-risk and my Pell Grant students. Okay, so again, I can pick and choose whatever combinations. Now I can do combinations of filters as well. So what I mean by that, show me all of my at-risk and Pell Grant students who have signed into, we'll sort on this, let's just say these tutoring activities. Okay, so now I've got multiple filters. I'm doing an activity filter and a student group filter. Okay, and I can do that with students. I can pick and choose however I want that combination to be. Okay, the other thing here is I have visits by activity. And let's go look at that report again. And see, it's got me because I don't have any this week. So I got my filter. So let's do, how about this semester? And run that again. Okay, and you can see I've got quite a bit here. I've got the category, the activity, the students that signed in and out, the total time for that particular course. So there's quite a bit in this report. Okay, but many of these reports I have a summary report. Okay, so if I click from detailed to summary and I run that same report, well, it's a whole lot different. A more condensed version of the same report. Okay, so that's really two reports in one. Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is also in the report screen here are the right-click options that are available for reports. Okay, now what I can do here is, first of all, I'm going to look at my favorites. Okay, now I have something down here called favorites. What that's for is you can just put all of the reports that you use over and over again into that one category called favorites. So I'm going to add, and what I'm doing there is just right-clicking on the report. I get a pop-up, and I'm going to do Add to Favorites. And let's say I want to do my 0 visits. I'll add that to favorites. Now, by the way, I'm going fast here, but you can put whatever you want for the name. And it says, should I make it available to everybody or just me? I can share any kind of report with other people if I want. And I can put a tooltip, which is just the yellow box that you'll see when you mouse over the report. Okay. So now down here in my favorites, well, I've now got by activity and 0 visits this semester. I guess I hit the caps lock, but you get the idea. So when I go back to my reports again, I can go right to my favorites and run the ones that I always want to run. Okay. Now, how do I get rid of a favorite or custom or memorize, which I'll show you shortly, but I can just right-click on the report and do remove this. Okay, when I do that, it goes away. Okay, and I can pick from various different places, so I can say, well, I want to run my instructor sessions report a lot, so I'm going to add that to my favorite too. And it'll just keep growing that list. Okay? Okay, the next thing I'm going to show you is how to memorize a report. Now, what does that mean? Well, memorizing remembers all the filters that you set over here to the right. So, again, let's do visits by activity. Now, if I go into my reports the first time, and let's say I want to run it for this week, okay, well, I'd have to pick this week, and I want to run it for a particular set of activities. Well, I can go find all those activities. You can see this could be kind of tedious to have to do time and again. And by the way, in these grids, I can say, let's just say I want to look at course list. I can always right-click and say filter on starts with. Okay, so that's an easy way to filter my reports. But let's just say that I want to do the following courses. And I want to do it for at-risk group and Pell Grant group. Okay, now I can set all that and run my report. But if I exited the report screen and went back into it, I would have to do all of that work again, which is kind of tedious. But there's an easy way around that. I simply set my filters, and then I right-click, and I memorize the report. Okay? Okay, so by activity this week at risk. So I do that now, and it says, well, do I want to make it available to everybody? Sure. And there's my yellow box. But now in my memorized reports, I now have by activity this week at risk. Now let's see how that works. Okay, I'm going to close the report viewer and go back into it. Now if I did visits by activity, well, I don't have any filters, right? But if I go to my memorized report and click on it, well, there you go. I have this week, I have activities, I have student groups, so it remembers everything I set. Okay? Okay, the next option I want to show you here is how to schedule a report. Okay, now something important that I want to mention first is before you schedule a report, you want to set your filters for it. Okay? So what I mean by that is, let's say I want to run this by activity report, but I want to do it for a particular set of activities. Let's say some of my course list items. Okay, and I want to do it for my at-risk and my Pell Grant students. Okay? No, just very much like memorize, but remember I'm going to schedule this time, but it does remember my filters. So I'll right-click now and I'll do schedule this report. Okay, I can do my name and my tooltip if I want one. Okay, so now it's going to pop open a scheduling window, and what I can do here is, let's say every Friday at whatever time, this is military time, so I'll say 4 o'clock in the afternoon, which is 1600, between today and let's say the end of March. Okay, I want to email that report. Here's the subject of the email. Okay, and then here's my recipient. Okay, now I could put a comma there and add another mail recipient so I can have as many as I want. I also have a carbon copy field here so I can put more emails in there. And here's the body, the text of the message. Okay, now once I've set this now, I'm saying every Friday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon between the 21st of January through the end of March, I want to email this report with this subject to someone at mail.net with this body text, and it's going to go to email. But if I wanted to, I could save that to a folder as well, so I could pick a shared folder out on the network, and then everybody could just go out there and see the PDF that's generated every Friday at 4 o'clock. Now I can do both here as I have. I'm emailing it and I can put it in a folder. If I don't want to email it, I can just save it to a folder. So you have combinations there. Okay, but once I've done that, I'm going to click Done. And now down in my scheduled reports, well, I'd already done one in testing, but you get the idea. Here, I'll tell you what, I'll remove the first one. And here's the one I just created, and you can see it's got this week, it's got my activities, my student groups. Now if I got back out and back in, it would be just like my memorized report. It would remember my filters, and it's also scheduled to be emailed. Okay? Now that's on a per report basis. Okay? So I can pick and choose whichever reports I want to schedule. But we have one special kind of report that's called Scheduled Instructor Report, and I want to show you how that works. Now, first of all, let's do it the old-fashioned way so we can see how important this report may be. Okay, I have this attendance by instructor report. And if I have AccuTrack set up where the student signs in and picks the instructor that teaches their course, well, let's say I want to then email that report to the various instructors. Okay, I could do that by picking attendance by instructor, let's say this week. Okay, and then I could pick that instructor. I could set my filter and pick the first one here, right? And then right-click and schedule it. And let's just leave it blank, but do my scheduling. Well, then I could do it again, but now I want to do it for another instructor. So I'm going to pick it and now pick the next one on the list. and right-click and do the same thing, probably put the instructor's name in the title, right? You know, to make it where I'd know which is which. Do it again, do it again. Now I'd have to do that for every single instructor or professor that teaches my class. Now I think I did customize there, but you get the idea. But that would all go down here. Okay, so that could be quite tedious if you have lots and lots of professors that teach courses. Well, you wouldn't want to do that over and over again, right? Okay, so I'll show you a better way to do that. In my Setup Options, okay, right under my Activity screen here, I have a button here that says Set Schedule for Instructor's Attendance Report. Okay, when I do that, I can set this up, and it's already got something in here, but this is going to send the report to every single different instructor with me not having to do them one by one. It's going to send the report to every instructor that had a visit from the student during whatever particular period of time I pick. This is this week, I could say this month, whatever I want. Okay. Now, how does it know who to send them to? You notice there's no email. Well, there's a CC, but there's not an email. Okay. That's done through the instructors screen here. Okay. So all of my instructors that have emails, and looks like I don't have a lot in here, but I would want to set up all my emails for my instructors once I decided to go in there and send a report. Okay. And again, that's scheduled instructor report. I don't have to go in here and do them one by one. Now it'll do them for all of the instructors. Okay. Now there's also an option in here that I can turn on or off, where it says ask student whether to report session to instructor. Okay, so if I turn that on, when the student signs in and picks the instructor, it's going to ask the student whether or not they want to report the session. Okay, that was a request from a college, so I guess maybe you have some need for that. If I just don't check it, it's not going to ask the student. It will automatically assume that they want that reported. Okay? Okay, the next thing I want to show you here is I'm going back to reports, and I think I accidentally clicked this earlier, but I'm going to customize a report. Okay, now customizing reports allows you to do different things. You can change the heading of the report. You have some limited availability to add fields, but we have a much better method for doing this called Query Generator, which I'm going to show you shortly. But I'll show you how to customize a report here. I'm going to right-click and do customize this report. Okay, and I'm going to add my major and minor. Okay, so when I customize, it's going into the back end of the report. It's going to show how that report is built. Okay, now there's various things I can do here. I'm just going to drag this down a little bit to make some room. Okay, but I said I wanted to add major and minor. Now, first thing I want to do here is I think I'm going to go ahead and expand this so I have more information. So I'm changing my title. Okay, and it looks like I might need to make my blue box a little bigger here, which I can just drag that out. And I can arrow these too. So I'm not too worried about how pretty it looks, but you get the idea. Okay, and now I want to add my major and minor. Okay, now over here, this is my little report navigator, and I can do various things here. All right, the second one is field. Okay, so I'm going to click on field, and I'm going to drag a little box right here. Okay, when I do that, it opens up these field properties. Okay, and now I'm going to click the little dots here. Okay, and over to the left, in the bottom left here, fields. These are the fields that I can add to this particular report. Okay. Now I said major and minor, and it just so happens that my P1 profile field 1 is major, my profile field 2 is minor. Okay, now if you remember back in the student setup screen, you have 10 questions that you can set up on that screen to put in any information you want. So that's what these are set up as. These are the profile fields. Okay, so I'm going to say, well, I want to add P1 here, and I can double click on that to add it. But if I don't want to, I can just type P1. When I do that, I can verify that that's a valid value. If it is, it doesn't complain. If if it wasn't, it would complain. I'll do OK. Okay, so there's my P1, but I want to put some text there, so I'm going to click my label here, click there, and type major. Okay. Now, if I want to get fancy, I can just click on that whole box and then copy, and then I can paste, okay, and then drag it over here. So I can keep what I've done. Now let's change P1 to be P2. Okay, I'll do that, and I can verify to make sure it's happy there, and it is. Okay, and then we'll change this to be minor. Okay, so I can add various things to my field. Now I'm going to drag this back up so I don't have extra space. Okay, now when I X out of my custom report, it's going to say, do I want to save? Well, I'll say yes. Okay, so now down in my customized reports, well, here we go. I have by activity with major, minor. So let's run that. And here we go. I have major. Now, Christopher Oates doesn't have a major or minor entered for his profile field, but you can see Mike Smith, his major is history, his minor is math. I have Mickey D, economics and English, English and business, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so I've just customized that report, and you can see it's got my by activity detail with major, minor. Okay, so I added those fields to the report through the customized query builder. Okay. Okay, now something else that I think is kind of a good feature to have is a lot of people will export their reports to Excel, and when you do that, those reports are actually exported out showing the seconds that a student was in the center. So how could we convert that to hours? Well, I think that's a good thing for you to know. So I've got one here that I want to run. Let me see if I can find this. Let's see here. Okay, yeah, the one I wanted to run is visits by activity, but I'm going to do the summary report. Okay, and then I'm going to export my data to Excel, and if I want to open it directly in Excel, I'll do Excel Direct. And that's going to open my report in Excel. Okay, and I did a small one, but you can see I have categories, activities, number of visitors, number of visits, and period. Okay, now period is the number of seconds. So let's say I want period in hours. And I'll drag that out a little. Okay, now to do that, I would just need to divide. In this case, it's G2, right? So to do a formula, I say equals G2 divided by 3,600. Okay. Now when I do that, now I know that 5,206 seconds is 1.446 hours. Now I could round those if I wanted to, but that's good enough. Now I'm in this field. All I have to do here is just change to that little crosshair and double click, and it's going to bring that formula down to the bottom. Okay, so 3,600 seconds is 1 hour, so my formula is good there. Okay, now let's say I want to do the total period for the activity. Okay, now I can do that. Let's say total for activity. Now I can do that by taking my total number of visits and multiplying it by my period, right? Okay, so that would be equals, and I have what, H2 times, what's that, E2. Is it E2 or F2? I'm sorry, F2. E2 is visitors, so I'll do F2, which is visits. Okay, so now I had 2 visits for a period of 5,206. My total would be 2.892222. Okay, and if I want to move that down to all of them, well, there you go. So I had 1 visit. Let's see, this one I had 3 visits for a total of 15,516, 4.31 hours. My total for people that have taken clarinet is 12.93 hours. Okay, so you can do lots of different formulas and different things in Excel. But whatever information you get out of AccuTrack, you can run various formulas and get the data just the way you want it to be. Okay? Okay, now I was talking about how the report, custom reports here are nice. You can do various things, but they're kind of limited. And when I go back and customize again, I'll show you here. When I talked about that bottom left, well, here's my report, but I don't have a lot I can add. So if I add a label here, I only have these fields available to me. Okay, so I have things like period, visits, visitors, subtask, etc., 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 but I don't have a whole lot of other stuff. Let's say, for example, I want to do this visits by activity, but I want to see which instructor they picked, or I want to see, you know, log in, log out, the student name, the tutor name, and the instructor email. Well, there's no possible way I can do that because I'm very limited with what I can get out of my custom report builder. Okay, now that's the very reason that we built the next thing I'm going to show you, which is Custom Query Generator, because lots and lots of classes would say, you know, well, this report's okay, but I needed to do this, that, or the other, and we just didn't have the capacity to do that unless we wrote a whole new report and sent it out, okay? And you know, we have to recompile the software. It's a lot of work to put new reports in. So that's why we have so many now, but then we decided to find a better way, and we did that through the Custom Query Generator. Okay. Now the query generator allows me to build any kind of report I want. So like I said, where I have different tables in the database, i.e. the student table, the activity table, the instructor table, the tutor table, I can't do anything in custom query through reports, but in Query Generator I can build my own queries using all of those various tables. Okay, so I did that by clicking on Query Generator. Okay, and I have some various examples that I want to show you here. Let's just do a report. The first one is a very simple one. I'll show you how to do one to get a student's first name, last name, email, major, and minor. Okay, so I'm going to do new here. And this is the base table that I'm going to base my report on. Now, you don't have to get this exactly right. If you know it's something with students, well, you want to pick students. If it's something with tutors, you would pick something with tutors, okay? And it doesn't really matter because you can get to lots of different fields anyway. But I'm going to say students, and I'll click Next. Okay, now I'm going to expand my little plus sign, my tree here, and these are all of the various fields that are available for my student table. So I said I want last name, first name, email, major, which is P1 in my case, and minor, which is P2. I do Next. Now, the filters allow me to determine, well, we'll talk about this in a second, but I can do some neat things in here. But I'm going to do Next. Okay, then the next one is, what do I want to sort on? Okay, so let's say I want to sort on the student's last name and then his first name, or hers. Okay, I can do that here. So I can sub-sort from different fields. So now I'm sorting on first name, last name, and P1. Well, I want last name to be first, so I'll click that up there. Okay, and now I can save this if I want to. And I'll just call it students. Students 1. And then I'll finish. Okay, now I can preview the records that match that. Now that's every one of my students, right? So it's going to take a little while. But as you can see here, well, there's last name, first name, email. Remember, P1 is my major, P2 is my minor. So I just created that report right here. Okay. Now I can do various things with that. Once I've done that, now I can select all the records in my report here by right-clicking, doing Select All. Okay, and then I can do them in various formats. So if I want to export that to Excel, well, I can just click Excel, and it's going to generate that for me. So there we go, and it's quick too. So how many fields did I have there? Let's see. Uh, 5,061 records. Okay. And it did last, first, email, P1, P2, so just exactly what I wanted. Okay. And I can do that in other different formats. If I want to just view it in the regular report viewer that's part of AccuTrack, well, I could say existing report format. if I wanted to create just those fields and then go pretty up the report, I could customize that report. That would open that custom query builder like I saw back in the other screen, that in the reports screen, and then I can build it. I can just do a quick report that just shows columns. I can do a CSV file. So CSV, I could comma separated value file and then import that into something else, HTML file, and even an XML file, which is good for exchanging data between various databases or programs. Okay. Now I've saved this query, but what I'm going to do now is get out and back in, and if I wanted to, I could build that new one again, go back and pick my students first, last, my sort, all that stuff, but I don't need to do that. Now that I've saved it, all I have to do is load it. Okay, and I'll click the little buttons and look for my report. There it is, Students 1. Okay, when I do that, now it's already loaded, and then I can preview and select. Okay, so I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to do another new one here, and we're going to get a little more complicated. This time I want to do one with the student's first name, last name, and their ID with their login and logout time to their categories and activities. Okay? So that means I'm going to get a report from the student table, the login table, and the activity table. Okay, so I'll do new, and it's about students, so I'll start with students and expand this. So I said last name, first name, ID, and email. Okay, now I'm going to scroll down a little bit and I'll see other tables. Okay, and I said login and logout time. Well, that's my student sign-in log, so I'll expand that one now, and I want login time, logout time. I go a little further down, and I want the category and activity. So if I click activity here, oh, there's my category, there's my activity. Okay, so I'll go next. Now I'll do another filter here shortly, but I'll just do next here. And I want to sort that on the category. Okay, and I can save that if I want to, but I'll just continue. And let's see what records I have. Well, there they are. So I'll select all, and let's say I want to see that in HTML. Click my dots and save it. And I'll call it Students 2. And then I'll open that, and then it'll open in my default browser in table format as HTML. And I didn't put any kind of filtering on there, so it's going to export my entire student database with that information in it. So it's going to take a second here. I guess I could have put a filter on it. But as you can see, and what was 5,061 records, something like that, but it's now an HTML table, so I can do anything I want to with that. I could pretty it up, put a style sheet on it, anything you normally would do in HTML. So there's all of that information. Okay. And if I wanted to change and say, well, I want that in Excel, I could do that or whatever else. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to do another one, and this time I'm going to use that screen that I've been bypassing, that filter screen, and I want to run a report this time for the student's last name, first name, email, and ID, along with their login and logout time, category, and activity, but only for students that have signed in after January 1st of 2013. Okay? So students, last name, first name, email, and ID. Okay, and I want their sign-in log, their login time, and their logout time. I want their activity, category, and activity. And that's it for the information. So I'll do next. Okay, now I can add my filter. So I said I want it after January 1st, 2013. And I can click here on my property, and now I have login time right here. So I'll click that, and I have equal to, but I want to say greater than, and then I'll put the date. So 01/01/2013. Okay, so now I'm getting that same thing, but instead of 5,000 some odd records, it's only the students that have signed in after January 1st. Okay, and all sorted by their last name. Okay, now I preview that report, and as you can see, I have a whole lot less information now. And if I look at my login time, well, sure enough, everything is after January 1st, 2013. Okay, I could select everything here and then put that in any kind of output I want. Okay. Now, if I did that as XML, well, that's kind of neat. So let's try that. And then I could exchange that with other programs. And just to show you what that would look like, I'll open that in Excel so we can see what the structure of it. Okay, so data from other sources, XML, and I'll go to my desktop. And there's my XML file. And I can just accept the defaults here and get a look at it. Okay, so here's my data structure. This says, you know, what kind of data it is. Well, the different values. See, this is a date time field. These are string fields. Don't worry too much about that, but it knows how to describe the data. And then over here, well, there's my records. So I've got my last name, first name, ID, which is the student ID, email, login, logout, category, activity. Okay, so I could use that XML file, and based on my structure and how this is set up, well, I could import that and exchange that with really any kind of application I want. Okay. Okay, so let's go back here and we'll do another query. Now this time I'm going to do a different one. I want all of that information, but let's say I want it for my at-risk students. Okay, so students again. Let's say I want to do at-risk students who have come in. I want the category, activity, login, logout after January 1st, but I also want to know which tutor they picked. Okay, I can get all that information. So last name, first name, email, let's say. I want the student group, because remember I want at-risk is going to be a filter, and I want my login, my logout, my activity, category, and activity. But I also said something about tutors. All right, well, I'll click tutor, first name, and last name. Okay, and I could go even further if I wanted to. I can click from all these various different tables. Okay, so then I want login time greater than 1:1. And I want my group name in this case to be equal to at risk. Okay, so you can combine these. Like greater than 113, group name at risk. Okay, now I can sort, let's sort on tutor last name. Okay, and I can save that. Click the dots here. Okay, and click Finish, and we'll see if I get anything or not. Okay, so these are, now let's look at my group name. See, at risk, this is my last name and first name, email, group name, login, logout, category. Here is my tutor's first name and last name, and then it's just got some ID fields that it pulls out of the table, out of the database, I should say. Okay, now by the way, if I am not happy with this, I want to go drag my category over. I can do that. I can pick whatever I want and move them around. Okay. And I can pick various, if I only want to get a few of them, I can pick them, or I can select all. Close form. Now I can do lots of different things, but let's say I want to do a mail merge. Okay, now I can use those fields that I just generated out of the database, and if I had a document, mail merge document, I could go pick it, which I don't think I do, so I'll create a new one. So now I've got those fields available to me, and I can see insert merge field. Well, let's just say hi, and then I want to put the first name. since you are group name, all right, and then I'll put the first name, and how about last name? Okay, good enough. So what I'm doing is putting the text with the merge fields, and it's going to pull those merge fields from the database based on my report, and I can go look at the recipients here by viewing the recipient list, okay? And then I can preview if I want to. Let's preview the results. So this one says, you can see I've got, oh, hi Mickey, since you are at risk, we want you to come in more often. Also, we hope you like Liz Bates. Okay, so I can go to the next one and the next one and the next one. I don't know if I picked them all or not. Let's see. Let's do finish and merge. And let's print documents. That way we can look at them. Actually, I don't know if I want to send those to the printer. Let's see. Edit individual documents. Okay, so we'll say all. So now I have Mickey. I go to the next page. I have Mike. I have Mike again, Mickey, Ron. Okay, so that's just a mail merge, and then I can email those out or print them or do whatever I want with them. Okay, so that's a nice way to do what, communicate with whoever you have. Now that would be all my at-risk students, right? Okay. Okay, so as you can see, there's quite a bit you can pull with reports. I would say go run your reports here from the report window, and chances are pretty good you're going to find what you need just using the regular report feature in AccuSQL or AccuTrack. But if not, well, you can certainly use your query generator, and the sky's the limit as far as that goes. As you can tell, well, you can pull data from all kinds of different places using query generator. So with either one of these two features, I think that you're going to, find the information that you need to get back out of the database. Okay, thank you for your attention. Bye.